So we're in the presence of royalty.
Yeah.
But both of you got your great history as well. But on a serious note, I mean, the whole idea of the Bristory, for those who don't know, it's a Facebook page that we set up during COVID, and the idea behind it was to get people to share memories of growing up in Bristol, but also re-establishing friendships with people who they lost contact with because of COVID. We weren't able to go and knock on nobody's door and that. So a small group of us was sharing photographs with about 30 of us. The group exploded to about 3,000 people in there, sharing all types of stories, from favorite places that they used to eat out, record shops they used to go to, the clubs that they were going to at that period of time. People even talking about moments in history like the poll tax riots. I don't know how many people remember those days as well. So we're looking at significant moments in time on the Bristory page, but I felt it would be a great way to talk about those moments on the radio, and this is what episode 1 is all about. And as we're both 3 hip-hop diehards, I think that was the best place to start as well. But General, I want to start with you really, because you were someone I observed and admire and still admire growing up. But I just want to know for you, how did it begin for you? What where did it start for you musically? What were you listening to as a youngster when you were growing up?
Oh, that's a tough one. Really, really tough one. I think for me, growing up back in the 70s, 60s area, it was a Jamaican community, like based in Montpellier and St. Paul's. And a lot of those families always had some form of music going on. There was always a house party with somebody had their sound system, and all the kids were there and all that family just like partying and all that. And music sort of came from that. And like my Uncle George, he had a really good little system and all that sort of thing. And he lived just down the road from us, and we was always in there, listening to those sorts of music and stuff. So you sort of grew up with it from there.
Were the house party more important for the community? Because I think that generation found that there weren't many places that would make them feel welcome, but hear those types of music as well. They're in their own community having these house parties. That's what built out of that scene.
Definitely, the black community, you could say, didn't have anywhere to go, except for maybe the pub. But they couldn't go into town and hear music because they'd probably get chased out, or sort of get called, very sort of racist and all that sort of thing. So they would do their own things, have their house parties, and then sort of blues going on as well, and the local pub and all that sort of thing.
Kelz, I'm just interested to hear from your perspective as well. Some of the music that you grew up around. What was your household like?
Similar to General's, man. Just mainly house parties. My mum used to have obviously my mum come over Jamaica. She came over from Jamaica back in the 50s, in the late 50s, and she was a nurse.
Okay.
So for the NHS, for the NHS, as they did.
Yeah.
Salute to
that generation.
That generation, the Wimbush generation. Salute. But my mum was a nurse, so obviously in her spare time, which she didn't have much spare time because she was raising all of us. Yeah. There was 6 of us in one household, so it was a lot of reggae music, a lot of Dennis Brown, obviously the Bob Marley, the Wailers. I won't even say Bob Marley and the Wailers because my mum was into
the Wailers
when he was the Wailers.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about that history.
A lot of people don't know that. Before the whole record company thing got in, and it became Bob Marley and the Wailers. My mum was was a Wailers fan. From the foundation, from the Ska days, Simmer Down and all that. So, and obviously being of Jamaican upbringing, being brought up in a Jamaican upbringing, it was like the introduction of punk was kind of like brought to me through Ska.
Okay.
But the new form of Ska that they call two-tone.
Yeah.
So
like the Specials.
Selector, Bad Manners. And that the introduction, that kind of introduced me into the, Too Much Too Young was always a classic song to me.
And Ghost, I like Ghost Town, man.
And Ghost Town, but Too Much Too Young introduced me to punk. Right. In a sense, where and it was crazy. It was a mixture. 1 minute is reggae, and then it goes into punk, and then.
And that's an interesting period in time that you mentioned, Kelz, not to interrupt you, because not just that, but the groups like the Special, the Tones and stuff, they were some of the few groups that had multiracial elements to it, black and whites together in a band, and they were trying to
sounds as well.
Experiment in sound, but actually trying to bring people together, because we're talking about a backdrops where the National Front was heavily present during the 80s and stuff. There was race riots, attacks and stuff. So
and
these
that's why
groups,
we had the house parties, as the general was saying.
that's it. You can go to certain places.
If we went into this town centre or certain places back then, racism was crazy. So the house parties was.
You want to say something, General?
I just think about the two-tone thing as well, like, you know, you've got the bands like the Selector as well, haven't you, and all that sort of thing, and the Beat. And those bands, you could see, like, you know, that they were multicultural, interracial bands as well. And that sort of gave a bit of hope back then, because people got to remember back in the 70s, 80s, it was a tough time for everybody, especially young black people, because of the laws changing, like the sus laws, and, you know, and just like trying to get a job, because there was no job for anybody, let alone a young black person just leaving school and all that sort of thing. So we had nothing really to fall back on.
A lot of barriers.
And music was like almost like an escape,
it was, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, it was an escapism for us as well. And it's interesting that you talk about that, because even now in our older ages, music still plays a part in our lives as well. That we, you know, I mean, we're probably years ahead, years far gone, where we were probably in our primes in terms of what we were doing musically. Not that we're no longer involved with it, but I think, you know, that heyday, that period of time when we were prominent, I would say the music scene was a lot more prominent. We still 30, 40 years still got that passion for that music, and that whole experience, like you're saying, in general, about the racism, the difficulty, the challenges, unemployment, and all of the other things that was faced during that time. Music was the thing that unified all of us together as well. Definitely. I want to take us back to like the 80s. I'm going to find out what your first rap songs were, but the one I can remember seeing on Top of the Pops was Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and The Show. In fact, did you like that song? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot saying that because I'm assuming I know it's a song that I like. Was it a song that you enjoyed listening to?
I thought it was okay, but
it wasn't for
being
you. A purist,
a scratch DJ.
Yeah,
I like to hear my scratches and not hear the beatbox.
Okay, and all of that,
and the rapping, because that was where I sort of come from.
Okay,
you know, I spent majority of my time scratching and building my skills around that, and I was like focused on turntablism, if you want to call it that. I was focused, and I wanted to be the best ever out there. I mean, you know, to get into the championships and do competitions and all that sort of thing.
So that song never worked for you. There wasn't a good space to cut up.
Work for me, because like it was kind of empty. There wasn't nothing I could catch from it to build with it. So, you know, it was a listening, storytelling song.
Yeah, it was an entertaining song. Go on, Kelz.
I was gonna say, I need to say this. Links always says, you were the first one to do transforming scratching. Because the first time he ever saw it, because General was doing it long before anybody was doing it. And he was still experimenting in his bedroom, and he said he went to your house. He was in your bedroom doing it. He said it blew his mind. It was the first time I saw and he actually picked it up. He saw how it was done. He always heard it, but he never saw. That was the first time he saw
it in action.
In action. So
legends. We're gonna talk more about that. But this is Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and The Show.
1 minute rhymes that don't come out right, they bite. They never write. That's not polite. Am I lying? No, you're quite right. Well, tonight on this very mic, you're about to hear. We swear the best star rappers of the year. So cheerio, yell, scream bravo. Also, if you didn't know, this is called The Show.
It's Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and the Get Fresh crew. I like how the General just gave me an honest answer. Sometimes, like, we don't want people to feel obligated to say things because they feel it's the right thing to say. I prefer honesty, and I like the fact that you say, you know, I understand exactly what you're saying. The whole start of the song is like crowds clapping, and then there's the doom, the doom, the doom, and then whoa, and then the beatbox and everything.
So I forgot as well.
Yeah, go on.
One more thing I forgot as well was like it's the Inspector Gadget theme as well, isn't it? Yes. Going all the way through it, and that was a commercial sort of lick as well, like, you know. So you maybe sound, that's why
you sound like you're a real purist. I mean, before we go there, let's just find out a bit when you gravitated to hip-hop music for you. When was that introduction for you in terms of playing or even listening to it? When are we talking now for you?
I think it was because I used to, how can I put it? before hip hop was even a thing. There was parties and I was playing around. We were playing like the funk, soul, like the chic.
So you were DJing before but you were aware of hip hop music.
Yeah.
Okay. Or
so,
rap music, should we say? Yeah.
Well, just before sort of thing. But there were the styles of where people would extend the breaks, and that's what Wild Bunch were doing, sort of like extending the breaks and getting people to chat on the mic. At the time, it wasn't really chatting, but it was hyping up the crowd and all that sort of thing. But then you sort of wondered, how did they do that? You know, extended breaks, and it's 2 decks, extended and breaks, and then that's how those elements of hip hop came through originally, and that's probably the first time when I heard it, and hanging around with those sort of like-minded people from the Wild Bunch and those sort of crews and all that sort of thing. And then there was a lot of people from Bristol who would always go to New York, and they would come back with the tapes, and you think like the WBLS tapes and the Kiss FM tapes and all this sort of thing, and you could hear the live scratching on there, but you didn't know how it was done.
How it was done, yeah. You could hear the sound, but you couldn't figure out what it was doing. Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of stuff that was coming over into England was electro beats, like what you played around, like Man Parish, or those sort of beats like Al Nashif and all, you know, a few more of those sort of like beats, David D, it goes on, you know, without the rapping on it. So you can hear the bits of scratching on those as well. So when I heard those underground sort of bits of music, I thought, that's me.
Yeah.
That's
for you. Kelz, what about you? Where was your kind of introduction to hip hop music, or your experience of the culture?
Well, ironically, seems I'm as an MC, even I'll be honest, the show, Dougie Fresh's show, that blew my mind.
Yeah, and me, but yeah.
I remember when it was, I was outside Frogmore Street as a kid, and I remember I saw, I have to big him up, Ray Jones, RPJ back in the day. Do you know what I mean? He was there, he had this old school Sony Walkman on him, and he's on his BMX. And he's
Walkman, man,
and he took it off, and he goes, listen to this. Yeah. And it was a BLS tape. He got his, because you know his family. Some of us,
because not anyone could get tapes. I did share this online the other day.
No, bringing it back to what General said about our families. When most of our families came, they had a choice. When he came out of Jamaica, it was either England or America. So obviously we had family in America. We all got family in America somewhere. But Ray had a
tape, WBLS, Mr. Magic and Marley Marr.
Mate, he had about the version he played to me. Yeah. He played me about, obviously at the famous cartoon Inspector Gadget. There was about 5 different versions on this one tape. But
wow.
the first version was Dougie Fresh, the show with Slick Rick. And I remember heard that for the first time. Changed my life.
Yeah.
Period. But I'm an MC, I'm a beatboxer as well. So before I was
you could identify to that.
I started off as a graffiti writer and a human beatboxer before I was even MCing. So I was feeling it. I was a big Fat Boys fan. Fat Boys, Dougie Fresh, Bismarcky.
We always give props to New York and America for exposing us to the hip hop culture, but UK's always had contribution to the scene as well. You know, we played our parts as well. Just in the sense of, I think when Curtis Blow first got signed, he got signed over here in the UK on Capitol Records, I believe. Slick Rick was from the UK as well.
Well, that's because I think the UK saw what was happening, and they could see a movement more than what the Americans could see, because it was sort of like, you know, based in New York or New York solely, but the UK took it and almost ran with it, because at that time, before rapping even started was a thing, there were breaking crews all over the place, you know, from uptown, downtown, London. People visit Nottingham, London, Birmingham to break against each other and all this sort of thing. And that was a really, really good time. And that was your sort of like start of really getting into hip hop, I thought. And then you made the transition up to becoming a rapper. And then the transition to maybe being a DJ as well. So like there was always levels to it. You just can't jump into
one thing
at that time. So yeah, and Bristol and New York had a really, really good connection, because I had friends in New York, like, it would send me tapes and get me exclusive records. I need this record, and when it come through the post,
when it eventually arrived,
it became exclusive. So,
and those who used to go over and bring back some of the clothing, the goose jacket. I'm sure I see you, Kelz, still sporting your goose jacket Okay, I don't know if it's original from back then, but
I got a shop. But I'm not saying where.
Okay,
it is.
okay.
And the belts.
And the belts as well, and the gazelle glasses.
Yeah, I found a leather shop in Europe somewhere.
Okay,
somewhere.
So you are we'll talk off camera where that is, because I'm still trying to get hold of one, maybe for the winter. It's only around the corner. This is a hip-hop special, Bristory, the radio series, episode 1. I'm joined by the General and also the Kelz. The song we're just listening to at the moment is Funky 4+1. The song is called Rapping and Rocking in the House, Funky 4+1. That is one of General's chosen songs today for our show. Just tell us a little bit reason why you picked that song and what it means to you personally.
This track is, it was a tough choice. I thought, let me go back early and just one of the original records that I got, and this was one of the first inputs I got on Enjoy. And I can't remember where I got it from.
I was just about to ask you that question, what record shop you would have got that from as well.
I think it might have been Hitman Records in London at the time, because there were there were loads of stores in London that people used to go and get their records, but everybody would come back with the same record, wouldn't they? To be sort of like in a crew and playing against other crews or battling against other crews, you got to have your own specials and exclusive tracks and all that, and that was one of them. And this came out at the same time as Rapper's Delight.
Okay.
And everybody played Rapper's Delight, didn't they? It got killed to death and all this. But this was just after on Enjoy label, and it was Rapper's Delight is 15 minutes long. That one 12 inches were long. This one is just, I think it's 14 or 15 minutes long as well. So you got these guys rapping on this fully out, and these guys were renowned New York crew who were up there, and plus they had Shia Rock on there, the female MC rapper who was noted to be the best rapper out of the whole lot of them as well. So you got to look about it. That's why I really like this track, and because it was nobody really had this track, for years and years and years and years, and I could just pull this one out and get the guys going. And we're just talking about who sampled this, and I go no, it's not a sample they had. Back then, I don't think samplers were really a thing at the time. Drum machines, everything was drum machines, and and the loud shout and rapping with Run DMC and all that sort of thing. So this track, as well as the Sugar Hill record, were all played by a band. Not a lot of people know that.
No, so that's true.
They just copy the rhythm. The band would copy the rhythm and get the MCs in there to rap it live straight through without no break. You couldn't cut and paste back then. It had to be a live, real to real.
I guess the other thing as well, because obviously hip hop was in its infancy those days as well. So there weren't probably too many. We say hip hop, I mean rap music in its sense. So rap never really had a definitive sound at the time, because when I was speaking to Grandmaster Kaz when we did an interview, we were saying, well, hip hop is an influence of so many different genres of music. You got reggae in there, you've got jazz in there, you got funk in there, you got soul in there. All of those elements is part of what created the influence of the rap sound. It didn't have a definitive sound until later on, when producers were probably coming into the studio and manipulating these maybe the drum machines and things like that.
I think that track by TLL Rock,
it's
yours.
Yeah.
The start of that, when it goes punk music, rap, calypso, rock, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
He got all the elements in there.
Play that beat.
He got all the elements in there at what rap was at the time. And you're right, it just came from all
those
sorts,
different things. Yeah. I mean, for you, Kelz, obviously I was going to say you're much younger, so I'm going to say you're much younger, but you're a little bit younger than us as well. We're talking about some of the songs that were kind of sort of the 80s. These songs, when for you, can you recall the sort of first hip hop song that you remember hearing, or was it the show?
I would say the first song that I actually listened to and thought lyrically was, ironically, it was Buffalo Gals.
Okay.
And
Malcolm McLaren. Yeah.
And but for lyrical content, or maybe when I actually listened to a rap and thought, mate, how did he write? You know, when you listen to think, how did he do? Like, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
I would say it's the message, because it was it was the way how Melly Mel wrote that. It was like, and it's timeless now. It was social commentary, and KRS One quotes it as the first rap song. It was like you said, but back then a lot of rap tunes didn't have structure, and I think the message is still a long rap, but it was structured in a way for you where it was painting a picture, and
took you on a journey as well.
But at the same time, coming from our neck of the woods, where it be Easton, St. Paul's, Montpellier, that low-income environment, he was able to relate to the lyrics. Do you know what I mean? And as in regards to the content of it, the lyrical content, that was the one thing I was able to think to myself, I wish I could do that. I wish I could, that inspired me. Do you know what I mean?
So these songs that we're talking about and what we're listening to, how did it influence the community you were around? Like some of your friends, and when we got exposed to hip hop, we were finding these songs, like you said, Malcolm McLaren, Funky 4+1, and all the other songs that came about. How did that influence the people you were around? Were they having similar interest to the music that you were playing, or were you introducing them to saying, "Oh, have you heard this new song?" I know, Kelz, you talked about the tape that you got from from Ray and stuff, but for you, General, what was it like? What was your environment, your area, when hip hop was going on? How were you guys connecting to the scene? Because you would go on to be part of UD4, but I'm just trying to build up that journey before you became a DJ yourself.
I think it's...
Even though you were DJing before hip-hop, let's make that clear as well.
Yeah, true. But I think we was all coming from the same place, the same community, going to the same schools, the same youth clubs, or visiting youth clubs, just down the road or up the hill, going to the same park. For me, it was St. Andrew's Park. It was a melting pot there as well, sort of thing, before it became St. Andrew's Park what it is now. Everybody used to go there to roller skate, to skateboard, and just to the punks, and everybody mixed community together. Okay. And and hip hop was a young people's thing.
So were they all listening to hip hop then? Was there ever a time you introduced people before you started DJing in hip hop yourself?
Definitely introducing people, and that goes through the tapes. I think that we all had, I may have a boom tape sort of thing, somebody wants, so we do a little bit of swapsy sort of thing, because somebody else may have one, there were certain people who had some of the exclusive tapes. I know that one of my best tapes that I got were from Miles Johnson, Milo, and that was Africa Islam from the Zulu Nation, and him. These tapes were strictly breaks, cutting up, scratching breaks, and I was sworn not to give that tape to anybody, which I didn't. I always kept that one to myself and all that sort of thing. But I learned from that. But I would always play it. My cousins would be in the house,
asking for a copy of it.
Yeah, that's what I would play on my headphones and all that, and it'd be in the house. And our house, it used to be sort of like a gathering house before we all went out as well. So it's almost like the gathering at Andrew's and Carl's and Ryan's house sort of thing.
I want to talk about where the influence of sound system plays, because I think both of you got a story to say where that journey from how much of an influence sound system had on yourselves and obviously the hip hop culture in general. But let me just take a commercial break. You are listening to Ujima Radio 98 FM. This is Bristory, episode 1. Smiley was ahead of his time, Smiley culture. That song was personally picked by MC Kelz. Tell us why. I mean, other than it being a good song anyway.
As well as it being a classic, is the first, for me, this is before London Posse, you know what I mean? It's before London Posse, so this is, Smiley culture is the blueprint of using a UK accent.
Yeah,
he was the first MC. Him and Saxon Sound MCs.
Yeah,
when I was young. I was
Philip
before
Levi,
hip hop.
Tipper Irie, Daddy Colonel,
that's
Rusty,
Colonel, Rusty, Sandy.
Sandy.
Daddy IP as well from Coxon as well. Like these were cats that would look like when they would get on a mic, as well as using the Jamaican patois influence, they would throw in the English terminology and English words, and then when Smiley Culture come with Cockney translation, I always thought Smiley Culture was a part of Saxon.
Okay. He kind of bounced between the two, innit? Between Coxon and
on their sound set. Whenever he had he'd do guest appearances and stuff. But
so you were quite you were quite into the sound systems back in. How old were you talking?
I think if I wasn't
a rapper,
I would have been an MC anyway. If it wasn't a rapping, it would have been a toasting. I was a toaster.
Okay, so who was your sound then? Saxon. You was a follower of Saxon.
I was a Saxon
sound.
Man. Okay. I used to be in school arguing with people about. We'd always have the same.
We all did the same thing.
Yeah, who was the best at a Saxon? Coxon.
And
I was a Saxon man, and I always used to get outvoted in it.
But you can't leave out Jam Down Rockers as well. Jam Down Rockers was another good sound. But
as an MC, like how General is a DJ, as an MC, I like Saxon because of their lyrics, whereas a lot of people who were drawn to Coxon was because of their sound. They had the dub plates.
True.
They always had those exclusive dub plates all the time.
What Bristol sound was you alliance with? What sounds were you? Ravers Super Mix.
Yeah, Ravers Super Mix.
I remember Ravers Super Mix and Warriors. Their clash over Trinity as well. General, you come from a background where reggae music and sound systems quite played a big part in your journey in music as well. Tell us a bit about you as well. And was there a particular favourite sound you had?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm a Saxon man like Kelz.
Okay. All three of us could say we're Saxon followers.
And like you're saying, there's always that battle that everybody wanted to follow the favourites, like Coxon, didn't they? That Liverpool versus the Man U sort of thing. Did you ever
have your tape clashes? Like someone would play a Coxon tape and someone would play a Saxon tape, and you just have your little own personal clash.
No, but I tell you what,
Saxon as well.
Back in school, because it was this is before hip hop. Back in school, what we used to do is bring our records into school, and we were lucky that we could use the changing rooms in a gym at lunchtime and all that. So we used to battle each other who got the best records. And there was this record shop on Picton Street called Roy's. I don't know if people remember that one.
I remember that one.
And you used to get the pre-releases from Jamaica and all that fresh, but you got to get there early and all that sort of thing. And Virgin Records used to have pre-releases as well, so you had to get there really, really early to get these exclusive tracks. So whoever got there first was always win to champion and all that.
Was the reggae shop on
Picton Street?
On Picton Street.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But there was another reggae. There was another shop in St. Paul's as well, isn't it?
Yes, there was.
Nearby Frontline Video.
Yes. Sam's or something like that.
Yeah. My uncle took me there when I was a kid.
Okay.
Without my mum knowing.
So we were just talking about the influence of sound system, its part is played in us personally as well, but also there's a relevance to toasting and DJing to hip hop as well, because the similarity is kind of the same in the sense that they're talking or lyrical rhyming over either instrumental or as the DJ back in the day. That was the toast, because when people talk about DJ back in the early days of sound system in Jamaica, your DJ was the one who was on the mic, as opposed to I don't know when the term MC came along. But
it's interesting that people say that Kool Herc, who's from Jamaica, was the first to introduce the break. But we know in Jamaica, in Jamaican culture, they would always play the instrumental. We would call it dub, the dub version. They call break. So when Kool Herc was doing that, it wasn't. That's a Jamaican thing where they would play the instrument and let it play. What I mean?
Is it fair to say, General, that that element, like Kelz is saying, the toast and the dub-wise, has played a part in hip-hop culture? Because I listened to conversations when it was hip-hop 50th where some were saying that wasn't necessarily the case. This is something that we created as our thing. What's your thoughts on that?
I hate to
say it as it is, man.
To say Uzu. When I was growing up, I think like both of you were saying, it was like people like you, Roy, and I, Roy, and those sorts of like DJ, they used to call them.
Big U?
But they, yes, and Big U. But they wouldn't really chatting fully out through the record. They would like saying like bigging up the crowd and doing all that sort of thing. And, you know, the American rap scene in the early days done the same thing, but they were called MCs. You know what I mean? And I think the DJs came before the American MCs. But I think there's influence on both sides.
Yeah.
And I hate to say like who was first and all that sort of thing, because I think it's degenerate to say like, you know, it was the reggae guy first and the hip hop afterwards, because they're both different styles.
But there's no dispute in toasting and sound systems and stuff was happening in the 60s and 70s. I'm just saying, in terms of hip hop, we say that, or they say they've given a date as 1973 as when hip hop began, when Herc held a party in the Bronx. But sound systems were really going on before that period of time.
Definitely.
But who's to say? You know,
there's an interesting documentary, and it talks about the disco years, the transition. And there was a guy called is it Flowers?
Yeah, DJ Flowers. Yeah.
And people say, some people argue that he's the first original hip hop.
Many
DJ.
people do say that before Flash.
Yeah.
I think back to Sugar Hill, when you mentioned Sugar Hill and Funky Fresh 4, it's about timing, isn't it? When you may just happen to be around at the right time. You know, Flash got the accolades and whatnot. Don't know the reason why, and I don't know why the Lights of Flowers might have been overlooked. But, you know, people like Lovebug Starsky was there, Grandmaster Kaz. There was a lot of DJs, but there's always going to be a prominent one who gets that moment.
Yeah, gets the
it's
shine.
not to say that there aren't others around, but again, people
I think
say
it's what
go on.
they bring to the table, because Flowers brought mixing into the groove, but he was just mixing sort of like disco, and there were a lot. It wasn't just him. There were a few others who would do. There's these twins as well, like, you know, at the same time with Flowers was doing exactly the same thing as him. You know, I think what Flash brought to the table is when he calls it the merry-go-round, doesn't he? Like, I think that's on Wild Style, is it? Like, you know, where
quick mixing
and Herc as well. Like, you know, they bang the merry-go-round, and then Scratch banged the proper element of scratching in and out. No, sorry, it was the guy from the Rocket, was it?
Grandmaster DST.
Yes,
Grandmaster DST.
and all that sort of thing. So it you know, it depends what you bring to the table and to evolve the genre, or the culture. So, but yeah.
I want to talk about what Bristol's impact has been on the UK scene as well, because that can't be overlooked as well. We obviously took our influence from what's coming from America, but then we were able to create our own particular scene, DJs, MCs, movement, club nights and all of that. So we're going to talk a bit more about that on the program. I am joined by MC Kelz from 3PM. I'm also joined by the General UD4. This is Bristory Radio Series Episode 1. We're talking everything hip-hop today. If you're a hip-hop enthusiastic and if you want to know what the scene was like, you're in the right spot, and we've got so much more to talk about on the program as well. Saying a big shout to G-Lo, who's been in the building with us as well, man. That's what I'm saying, man. Bristol's got so many stories. Jody, Way Out West. Is it Way Out West?
The Way Out West crew.
Yeah. I mean, that's great timing, actually. Look of Love, Wild Birds, just one of my favorite songs from back in the day. Again, we're talking about the sound, what was being created, you know. General, you was talking about live bands and stuff for hip hop, and then we had the drum machine sound and the 808 and all the different sounds that was coming in. But that's a staple of the sound of that period of time. When do we think, or when could we say Bristol started to emerge and build its own scene in the 80s? When did you see that happen in general? What were the signs for you when you could say, yeah, Bristol's actually got a scene going on based around the influence of New York? Was there a time, or was there a moment? Can you think of any, or just a particular song that might have been that triggering point? Then things just started to build up for the city. I mean, for me, whenever I listen to that song, I just think, we can't underestimate the impact Wild Bunch has. Yeah. That's let's put it out there quite clearly, and what went on to become Massive Attack and stuff, and all the other crews that formed at that time. Fresh 4 were doing their stuff. UD4, of course. City Rockers were doing their thing.
I was going to say, I do need to say that.
Go on, please.
It's a shame that Links ain't here because Links.
No, we got him on the next episode. Don't worry, man. Don't worry. But you know what Links is like. But I got him on the episode.
Links is very frank when it comes to like. In regards to like, there was many DJs. There was a lot of sound systems.
There was
in
loads.
the same timeline as well.
Galaxy Affair, Too Bad, Prime Time,
Dirty Den
was Easy Groove, Soul Twins.
There were so many
Wise
crews out
Guys.
there. Yeah, there was KC Rock.
There
was so many crews out there doing the same thing.
Soul Twins. It goes on. But I think when you see. Was there a time? I just think it just kept on evolving, getting bigger and bigger. You see the crews, all the crews doing good, getting picked up and playing out of town and all that. And like you say, Wild Bunch was one of the main ones that was
prominent out there,
and had the connection to cut their music as well and all this sort of thing. And then once we sort of realised, yes, we can cut our music and get it cut on dub plate, and that's a start. But you still had to get the equipment because you've got to remember, equipment back then was it was not cheap. It was really, really, really expensive and all this sort of thing. And you had to. I remember our first sort of dub plate, we had to hire a studio to go and get it made, and that didn't cost. That wasn't cheap
neither.
And then once you get it made, you got to get it mastered. Mastered first, and then you go to a test press, and then you go and get it cut.
So you get it on an acetate tape. You get it on an acetate tape.
Acetate, yes, and all that sort of thing. And that's not cheap itself. But that's how it starts, and that's it. Beginning of, your next development of. Maybe becoming a musician or of some form of sort.
Because that's Bunch's journey, if we're going to be honest, isn't it? They were cutting their dub plates, obviously were in the right circles, they were creating a buzz for what they're doing. I don't know if 10 Records came in at the time. They were obviously doing stuff with Smith and Mike. I'm going to come to you, Kelz, as well, because obviously you were part of that development as well. But like you're saying, that's a transition, isn't it? You do your DJ and you cut up. You might cut a couple of dub plates. If you're fortunate enough, someone might pick up one of your songs, because some of the releases were dub plates. When you think about, if you look at Fair Play, Soul to Soul, that was a dub plate. Really, it was initially, wasn't it? A dub plate.
I first heard that on dub plate.
Okay,
they sent a promo copy to Smith and Mike's, and I was at the studio when they were playing that.
Really,
and Keep On Moving.
Yeah,
I heard that on dub plate before it got released.
Yeah, I mean, you can't underestimate the influence Nelly had as in the group
Nelly,
as well. So for me, I was talking about, I'm trying to make a timeline. For me, when Wildstar got shown in Bristol, I think shortly after that was the start of Bristol starting to try and create their own scene. I remember going to watch it. I think it's King Square Cinema around there. Everybody was there at the end of the film. Everybody thought, it was like it was like people were inspired by watching that film, because people were trying to have battles outside, like
and Tat Crew, the TAT crew. They did the graffitis at Malcolm X. I remember walking past that thinking, that can't be this. That's the same team. That can't be.
So for you, Kelz, that's the same for you. Like the timeline for you when growing up as a youngster. I was a little bit younger,
so I wasn't able. I missed the dugout years because I wasn't able to go. But like I said, there was a time when they played at just behind the Barnabas Centre, and that was one of the few,
crypt, the backline.
I can't remember where it is. It's just by where the Star and Garter is now.
Yeah, it's backline. That was that backline, general, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it's called backline.
Wild Bunch played behind there.
Okay.
And it was an open air thing, and that was one of the few events that I was able to go with my friends, being kids and stuff. I just climbing up on the the stage is all set up with them scaffolding. We'd climb up behind it and just watch from behind and try and get a peep of seeing Milo on the decks. And Milo was always vex face. I like that.
No, it's serious.
I like that. He was always serious. He was never smiling.
Deep concentration. That's what I'd say.
Because
there's a song that samples that.
He had that ghetto look as well. So I thought to myself, I like that. Their whole setup was like a sound system. They would put their name Wild Bunch on their speaker boxes and things like that. I just thought it was but the thing, it was funk, it was soul. It was like the first time I ever saw hip hop in visually was through Wild Bunch, 100%. The first time I saw Two Decks, first time I ever saw Technics.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the first time I got introduced to exclusives, because they would put it on, and I remember one time Milo would you get a little round thing and cover the label, so no one could see what tune it was. Do you know what I mean?
Listen,
they were proper exclusive, man. Exclusive, and there's their dress, everything. So I was all about that, and I was a big I got a big up Willie Wee, man.
All day long, man.
For me, Willie Wee is Willie Wee and Grandmaster Kelz for me, as in the mentors. For Bristol, I would say is Willie Wee. Influences outside globally, as far as the rap game is concerned, I would say is Kelz, Willie Wee.
Okay.
And I'd throw Run DMC, but I got to go big. But when it comes to foundation, as in influencing me to think, do you know what, I want to do this. I could do this. I would say it's Grandmaster Kelz and Willie Wee.
So 100%. When did that happen for you then? Because just a moment ago you talked about being in the studios with Smith and Mighty. How did that journey go for you? Ended up.
This is like AE3.
Okay.
And then when I went to Smith and Mighty's, the first time I went to Smith and Mighty's was summer of 1987. And I was fortunate enough to after that I was going there all the time. I was just hanging out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And just listening to their ideas, and
So you weren't making music at that time with them. You were just in the studio.
I was just nosing around. They did a few freestyles for them. Yeah. They brought me around there the first time, but after that, I started going around there anyway.
Okay.
And that was when I was at the studio when Carlton did Any Love, and that was the first time I'm like.
But that's the name we don't talk about often as well, Carlton.
Listen, Carlton is the best singer.
Yeah, he was
that
a wicked
came
singer,
out of Bristol.
Man. He was a wicked singer.
He had that like Curtis Mayfield cadence, that high pitch.
Let me tell you the second best. The second best singer to come out of Bristol for me, female, was Alison Wilkes, man. Rest in peace. I thought she had a beautiful voice, but but in terms of
a male singer, Carlton, he had that Curtis Mayfield pitch, a little bit of the Bee Gees across. That high pitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. And when he sang Any Love, it just blew my mind, and that it was Carlton, Mushroom was there, and Tricky was there as well. And I remember I was just sat down, just
absorbing it all in.
I'm sponging, man. I'm just absorbing and just thinking, he would get superstars back then time. But I'm not saying nothing. I'm just quiet. I'm observing. I remember Mushroom was doing the cuts.
Yeah.
And,
So when did the microphone get to you then?
The microphone got to me 88. I was I did my first ever track was The Poet, and I was 17 at the time. You know what I mean? And we laid that down, and then I was still doing the road thing because I wasn't taking it a bit seriously. I just thought, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And then do you know what made me change?
Go on.
Went round Smith and Mighty's, and I hadn't been round there for a while. I stopped going around there, and I got in a little bit of trouble as a teenager, as you know what I mean?
As you do.
Back then, growing up in Easton and all that. Yeah. And I went round there, and Rob and Ray gave me they gave me a 12-inch with my name on it, and he gave me a wad of money.
Wow.
And this is me, do you know what?
You've made it.
I'm sticking to this.
This is
because I never thought in a million years that I would get anything for something
you love.
That I love, and I was doing it and that was, I got to big up Ray Mighty, man. Ray Mighty introduced me to songwriting, not just freestyling, structuring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then my first ever song was The Poet.
Wow. General, Kelz made a really interesting point. I'm going to go into a song that you've chosen as well, but Kaz said the same thing, is that the love for hip-hop was never really about money. When people entered into it, it was just something that we enjoyed and we were passionate about. The money came after, which is great, and it's monopolized the whole industry and is a multi-million industry right now. But initially, it was just being able to participate. Obviously, as a DJ, you being part of the UD4 as well. What was your feeling when you guys created the UD4 as a group? What was your aims and ambition, or did you have any, or you just thought, I want to go out and just be part of this scene?
I wanted to be known as one of the best scratchers in Bristol.
Say it, man.
I wanted the crew to be one of the best crews in Bristol, along with the Wild Bunch, to walk alongside those crews, the Two Bads.
You achieved it.
And all that sort of thing, to walk alongside that. Out of that was plenty extra, like getting to play up in Manchester, Nottingham, London, and also some other towns and cities. Like, you know, we traveled. We were quite lucky to have that in our repertoire to go and do that. You know, because people would come and see us and want us to come up to their place, and you know, it friendly battles. For me, that music at that time, it wasn't mainstream music. It wasn't music that was seen that you're going to be taken out from where you are.
It wasn't popular music. It wasn't pop music.
And to be a number one record, that wasn't going to happen. Nothing could.
It's more of an underground scene.
It was definitely underground, and it was a love. And you know, being loved by your own community in Bristol, that was good enough for me, because like, you know, you're sort of like, you know,
a superstar. Superstar.
I'm just going to say, like, we're ghetto superstars.
And that means
that's
a
what
lot.
we are.
Yeah,
and you know, to me,
lot.
that was the goal at the time, because there wasn't social media back then. People got to remember, you know, there wasn't anything like that, you know, to boost us out into the atmosphere, into the next town or city. You had to physically go out there and travel and do it that way.
You had to earn your stripes
and
make a name for
connections.
yourself.
Exactly, sort of thing. So, you know, from having that accolade from our own Bristolians, was all the West Country was nice, and it felt good at the time and all this. And I always say to people, like, you know, you need to like look at it as something that you love and treat it as a really good hobby first. You know, first and foremost. If you're just doing it because you want to go out there and make something, some money, quick money out of it, it ain't gonna happen. You know, treat it as a hobby, treat it as a love, and then if it takes you further,
so be it. The money will come.
And I think that's why you're so highly regarded. And you certainly, for me, and I'm sure the same for Kelz and many others who observed you as a DJ, watch your skills, being in the presence of your of you cutting up in front of us in your home in Sefton Park. I remember those days, you know, and I think it's important that people realize that those efforts that the likes of you and many others created, enabled for those who'd gone on to become successful in their careers. I think we always got to acknowledge the foundation, and you were part of the foundation with many other people, and I think that's what Bristory is actually all about, celebrating those who were there and part of it, and those sometimes who get overlooked.
I need to, on
please.
That note, I got to give General his flowers, because I would definitely say if you without General there'd be no links.
Okay, real talk.
I would go that far and say that, 'cause I know for a fact that he was a total student to you.
I'd even go as far as say that there probably wasn't no +1 as well, and you know, you set the way with many others as well. But look at the success your brother had gone on to. I'd like to say, and I'm sure you say, that influence from you played its part as well.
Dude, big time.
But let me go into a track that you asked me, or I asked you to let me know what you would like for us to play on the show, and you chose the Apache Incredible Bongo Band. Just tell us why that was your choice.
I think that's one of the records that was the original break, or the original party break. You knew as soon as that drums come on in the first bit, you knew that's going to be everybody going to be coming onto the dance floor and rocking or breaking. You know, it's one of those breaking records and scratching, etc. And there were quite a few elements to that record which people don't really know about and all that. But at the beginning bit, you had to be back then. You had to be really, really good and know your grooves and where to bring it in to do the quick mixes and all this sort of thing. Could it lasted long, but not that long. And you could always get your rappers, any rapper, to say like, I want to hold the mic, I need to hold the mic on that one. And so that you could like extend this beat forever, and not forever and ever, but
quite a long time.
Quite a long time, and people will still keep it rocking because it's a great record.
Sometimes I wonder to myself, when I listen to these songs, we say the breaks, because it's like the break part of the song it's like it feels like they made these songs for hip hop. And I know hip hop didn't have or rap music didn't have a distinctive sound because it was, again, example, just cutting up different songs, different breaks. But whenever you went looking for a break and you found a great break, you say, wow, it feels like they made this song specifically for the culture. You know what I mean? I don't know what you feel, General, but it feels like they made the music for the culture.
Well, in a way, I think it is. You're right, but if finding is, call it digging. You get to go there and dig for these tunes.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my time in the record shops, and I'm talking not just like the favourite record shop that everybody used to go to. Just go to second-hand record store all over the country, especially in London as well, and Bristol. And just dig and dig and dig and dig until you find the right one. Because we've got to remember, when people had exclusive records and they didn't want you to know what they would black them out.
Yeah.
That's what I used to do.
Like Kelz said earlier, isn't it?
I had to make a little label and paste that on the top of it so nobody would know exactly what that is. And that's what everybody else knew I did. And Americans would not free up what those records were either. So it was like sometimes word of mouth, or you just had to like read the book that maybe
like Rap Attack book.
Those sort of things, like get it from there.
Yeah.
And like a lot of these records would not even it didn't even come to England, so you couldn't even find them.
Yeah.
So
that's quite interesting, because we relied on import on a lot of the music. Some of them weren't even majority of them wasn't getting no British release at all. Yeah. But you said some of them you couldn't even get at all unless someone went over to America and lucky enough and bought it back for you.
It's like they were rare grooves, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
In America, but over here with non-existent sort of thing. And and vice versa as well. Like the English had some groups that the Americans couldn't get, and all that sort of thing. And I hear stuff from a lot of the DJs over there. But when they come to Europe, it's almost like a field day that they find some of these exclusive tracks that they've been looking for years and years and years. And it's always like a French band or English band or something else, like and when they got them, they buy about 3 or 4 copies of the records.
Yeah, buy it up, innit? Trying to avoid anyone else getting a copy of it as well.
Yeah.
Kelz,
yes, sir.
Me and General's talking about breaks and stuff and how important from a DJ's perspective, finding that right tune is significant. For you as an MC as well, what's your approach when you're making a song in terms of getting your lyrics? The breaks is a significant part. Okay.
Especially
what you build your lyrics around breaks when?
It depends. Like the stuff that I'm doing with Beans has got
Sir Beans, salute.
Yeah. Big up Sir Beans. He's got a massive 70s library of just unknown bands and groups from all over the world, not just America, but because you don't have to just go to soul to find soul or jazz to find a bit.
Jazz. That's very true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
There's some crazy tunes that there's some like tracks from unknown groups, some folk groups as well.
Yeah,
we'll take from anywhere where if I hear something that sounds funky, we'll take from it. And think, we're trying.
Because you don't look at, because when I remember going record shopping with Ryan and Wilkes, and sometimes you're looking in collection, but you don't look in the obvious. You're right. You don't look in the obvious collection. You don't necessarily look in the soul. You go obscure. You just work your way. And a lot of those producers like Large Professor, Q-Tip, and Diamond D, they say they go to record fairs looking for music and stuff. Diamond D and all of those.
Exactly. I mean? Because even this, they reminisce over you by Pete Rock.
Oh, listen to that.
The original where that saxophone riff is from is amazing.
Yeah,
and it's not soul at all.
Yeah,
finding that diamond in the rough, isn't it? That's why they call it digging. Like
Crates, man.
Yeah. So just back to the point for you, Kelz. So what's your formula when you're coming? Share with us your process when you're coming to write a song or
concepts basically.
Okay.
It depends on what kind of mood I'm in, and it depends if it's if it could be love, money, or just everyday situations, social commentary based on what's going on. Because back in the days of once upon a time, there was a time when conscious rap was mainstream.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you were allowed to not I wouldn't say allowed, but we're talking about things of current events and social issues.
Was more interest.
Was of more interest.
Well, hip hop started. You mentioned a message earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an example, isn't it?
That's I would that's
Curtis Blow, Too Tough.
Yeah. Even Run DMC, I'm proud to be black. There's so many concepts of that you can include when you're rapping. So for me, when it comes to like finding ideas, I like to use certain breaks, but also it depends on the scenario as well. Do you know what I mean? Different situations make me write in different ways, and a different beat as well. There's a particular break that if Beans is listening to this, I've been chasing him up about looping this break, and it's a dope break. I'm not going to say what it is, but yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to Beans, mate. Beans, you know what I'm on about. Loop it up, mate. We're always digging in the crates, always looking for breaks.
So it's Bristory, the radio series, episode 1. I got to say a big shout out to Bear. He's logged on as well. He wants to say a shout out to you, Kelz, as well.
Yeah, big up Grizz Bear, man, definitely.
And yeah, just shout out to everyone who's really logged on and supporting the Bristory Facebook page as well. Join the page, keep uploading your stories, your pictures. It's important that we share those moments in history.
Yeah, big up to all the graffiti writers, all the MCs, all the singers, all the DJs. Can't forget the DJs. Big up to General, man. Got to mention the DJ. Starts with the DJ.
And it's been a good week. It's been a good couple of weeks for hip hop in Bristol, because obviously Grandmaster Kaz was in town a couple of weeks ago, and it was really good to catch up with him. The screening of Wild Star last week, I managed to meet up Jarobi from A Tribe Called Quest as well. And I did ask him, you know, we admire, as us in the UK, we were always admiring what was going on in the States. We were influenced by them because obviously they're the founder of the movement. And I asked him, are you guys aware of how much praise we have for you to, you know, with what you're doing here in the UK? You know, when you go back home, do you give that acknowledgement to the UK scene? And he came here, he said, listen, he said he's been to Bristol 3 times. He said, if it ain't for places like the UK enabling hip hop to be further, it probably wouldn't get as far as it has. And you made a good point there, is that earlier, General, when we were talking about, you know, the culture coming over to the UK helped just enhance it and take it even further. It's probably even bigger here before it even exploded back in the States as well. Japan played quite a big part in the hip-hop culture as well, which can't be underestimated. And obviously, you know, I know Mars would go on to be involved with major force over in I think it's Tokyo. Is it Tokyo? I can't remember if it's Tokyo or Japan. The point I was making is that Wild Style, in fact, got screened, I believe, in Japan before it even went into theatres in America. And it got funding from Channel 4 in the UK. Was something that I found out as well.
When you mentioned that at the casting, I was quite, wow, I didn't know that. So I could believe that.
Right. So as much as we admire what they do in the States, we can't forget the influence and impact us as a UK, a small little place here, has had on this culture and movement to where it is. I do want to come back on the last half hour to say, is our contribution really recognised in terms of what the UK's done and where music is at the moment as well, and where UK hip-hop music is, or whether you guys are even listening to hip-hop at the moment? Is a collective opinion in the studio that Public Enemy is wearing a class by themselves. We've all had the experience of seeing them perform live. I've seen them about 3 times. Me and the General have both seen them at the Raising Hell tour with Run DMC. That's Hammersmith. How was that, 88? Would you say that's 88? Around that time.
Yeah, around about that time.
Yeah, around 88. Kelz got his opportunity to see them as well. You chose this song, Kelz. Tell us a bit more. Obviously, it's an inspirational song for you.
First time I heard it, changed my life.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Okay.
Just beautiful noise, man.
Yeah.
Just beautiful noise.
Beautiful noise.
Yeah, the sounds of the Bomb Squad. That was when the whole concept of layers of sounds and samples and just repetitive riffs that to the average listener be like, what is this? It's just a new form of art form, man. It's just that repeating that whistling.
Have you heard the original sample of that?
I've got it. I've got it on my phone.
Okay.
It's my ringtone, man.
Yeah.
Is it the grunge?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
James Brown band, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, people people really were obscure looking for breaks back in those days as well. But I think that's one of the most obscure breaks you mentioned.
Public Enemy, they inspired me, man. Just on every level, everything from lyrics, their concept, their ideology, their identity. They made me feel proud to be a black man. There's so many different things about Public Enemy. I'd be here forever, man. But yeah, that group, all the groups. I know everybody. I much love to Wu-Tang. I love my Wu-Tang as well, and I've been blessed enough to support some of the Wu as well. But for me personally, my favorite rap group of all time has got to be Public Enemy, man.
And from what they did for the music as well, what they were talking about,
exactly,
and how much of awareness they generated, because a lot of the stuff that they were talking about, I never knew about Farrakhan until I listened to Public Enemy, and I'll be honest about that.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
They made you want to pick up a book.
And understand the
yourself.
culture. So we're like in 2026 now. All three of us have seen some form of development of the hip hop scene in Bristol over the 80s, 90s, noughties. In 2026, I'm not even sure if you guys got an answer for this, but do you have an opinion, or are you aware of what the scene is like in Bristol? Well, you got a youngster who's obviously involved with music yourself, general. But what do you think of the state of the scene in Bristol? Is it in a good place? Do you know much about it? Is there more that could be done? And do you form an opinion at all about it?
I don't think I form an opinion on it, because there's so many different
layers
in general that it's hard. It's hard for people like For instance, when I was into hip hop, there wasn't that many genres of music that you can deviate to.
Yeah.
I think it was hip hop, punk, two-tone, rock, and a few others.
Yeah.
Soul, disco, not disco, have gone by then at that, but be honest with you. Now, there's so many different genres of music, you just can't pick one.
Yeah.
It's just so difficult. I think hip hop tailed off for a bit in the 90s because everybody wanted to be in the rave and sort of like
the acid rave scene.
Yeah, acid rave scene and the drum and bass scene after that. And then for me, like the Bristol jungle scene was heavy. You know what I mean? And then it was around little by little, and then we saw the grime era hit as well, which was okay, but it was a bit rowdy. And not everybody was into it, and people had a stigma on that sort of music as well, didn't they? And all this sort of thing. But just worldwide as well, I think it went through a funny patch with hip hop being, it wasn't really hip hop really, because I think rap took over. And the different genres of rap I didn't think was good, to be quite honest with you, because I didn't hear a message in a lot of the stuff. And that's what I grew up with, is I wanted to hear that message and empowerment of people, especially the people who are living and having a hard time in the ghettos or the community that I lived in, sort of
telling
thing.
a story that you can identify with.
Yeah, exactly. Having a message. And I didn't hear any of that in any form of the music, to be quite honest with you. It's all about me, myself, and I, and all that sort of thing.
Kelz,
I would say that is. I definitely agree with that. I feel that, and I think that's deliberate.
Because Kelz, you've worked. Obviously, you're still currently making music, and have worked with up and coming artists yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I struggle sometimes when there's a new MC or a young MC and. They'd be spitting about, yeah man, free this person, free that person, and I think myself, obviously I try to meet MCs where they're at, because at the end of the day, there is an agenda, you know what I mean, and it's like what General just pointed out. The message has been there's a lot of MCs out there that are spitting positivity and talking about social current affairs that's going on, because there's a lot of things going on right about now and no one's talking about it.
And we're focused on one.
Yeah, they're just focusing on the not the whether it be the grime element or the gangster element. Yeah, we know that story, but what's the other stories? And there's a lot of other stories that aren't being rapped about, whereas back in the day they would be rapped about it. You know what I mean? You'd have about if this was back in the early 90s, there'd be about 10-20 tracks about Epstein. You'd have about 20-50 rappers rapping about that right now. It was like it was like our news. It was like a daily lyrical side point of current events that were going on. But I think that nowadays it's just about the message is missing. Definitely,
we need to bring it back to basics. That's a really interesting point, and it's not to take anything away from what subject matters people are choosing to talk about, but there are so much other things we can also be talking about as well. That can be also part of the conversation.
Yeah, you got your grime lyrics, you got your love lyrics, you got your gangster lyrics. Yeah, we know
there's a time and a place for everything.
Stories, use your imagination and don't be scared to be vulnerable. To talk about your imagination and use your imagination.
Excellently put, Kelz. Taking you to a Strong Island with a JVC force for the real hip-hop connoisseurs out there, because this is what this show's all about as well, Bristory. If you've never been on the Bristory Facebook page, man, I always want you to just go over there and share your story. It's not exclusive to hip-hop, but we got we got hip-hop royalty in the building tonight, but and our love for the culture, we're going to share those stories. But if you have any other stories around Bristol's history, come on to the group, because it's important we talk about these stories, isn't it? Kelz, you were just saying, sometimes we hear the same narrative over and over, and there are other people who've got a different perspective that they can share, and it would be useful to hear.
A big up to Wild Bunch, definitely inspired me. Big up to Willie Wee as well, definitely a mentor. But there was other groups out there during that same timeline and some of these groups have been forgotten, and they were just as influensive, if not as influensive. So.
Do you think it's just because people might not have remember those names for that period of time? Is it just that they've just been lost under the radar? Not that people ain't giving them credit, but we just didn't.
I just think that. UD4 got to get their flowers.
Of course, FBI got to get their flowers.
FBI, Dirty Den, because Dirty Den would
New Clan.
Yeah, man. Dirty Den would sometimes let me come into this house and just freestyle. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He could have easily told me like, move. He could have run me out of his house. But he just But he was willing, for the
give you that opportunity.
Give me the opportunity for the love of the art. You know what I mean? To just sharpen my skills, sort of thing.
And this is why I invited both of you, because you both can give different perspective. Kelz, I've always rated you as an MC, general man. I've come around to your mum's house, seen you cutting up Peter Piper. Like I thought, whoa, this is just a different level and stuff. We didn't really get opportunities back then. We had to earn our way up. But
Link said you went to your house.
Yeah, I went to his house. We used to spend a lot of time. You know what I mean? Like we may as well just have had a key the amount of times we used to
open house. It's like a youth club.
But the situation is different now, isn't it? There's a lot more opportunity for people to progress in their career. What word of encouragement do you think you would like to see that can probably get people to really continue to share their story of Bristol, or just helping enhance the scene, if the scene needs to enhance in any particular way? Is there anything we could be doing more to bring nurture the next generation? Because a lot of that opportunity is there already. Is that fair to say?
I think the opportunity is there, but what I've noticed that there's a lot of isolation going on.
Okay.
What people are doing, i.e. making music or DJing, they're doing it on their Todd or on their own, and not really showing those skills or what they got with other people or other like-minded people. Like when I was DJing, I always had people around the house, and when we had the crew, we was all together watching us DJ or MC and saying
inspiring one another.
Yeah, and said we could do this better, and or do that better, or put that rhyme in that rap, or try this scratch, but do it by mouth first or whatever. So you had a different influence and encouraging each other in different aspects of the thing and working as a collective.
Yeah.
And nowadays people are just working in isolation, and not really. It's almost like they're scared to show what they've got.
They want to keep it to themselves.
Keep it to themselves. Yes.
I feel the same about the history as well. Not people want to keep the history to themselves, but we're of a particular generation. That generation above us, a lot of them sadly are passing on, and a lot of those who are passing on are passing on with stories that we no longer will ever get to hear as well. And I think it's important, especially a show like this, and what I'm trying to do with Bristory is continue to share those stories, because when, God forbid, we're no longer on this earth, those stories would still circulate with other people and say, oh, you remember General, you remember, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's a role we got to play as well.
Sure. And it's good, and I think it's important to show. I think it's important to show people their flowers while they're still here as well. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I have to give a shout out to Lord Loco.
Yes,
Loco,
yes, yeah. We got to shout out the sounds. You know,
Because
Gold
do you know
Tea,
what it's
Playboy, Warrior, Basai,
another
Enterprise,
Qualitex, Viking. It goes on.
I remember being a kid, I think it was when Coxon played, and I remember DJ Derek.
Okay.
And I remember DJ Derek being the only white dude in the dance, stood at the back
and studying.
Other cats, and there's the dance, the reggae dances that I used to go to was it Basai?
Basai, yeah. You took the words like yes.
Yeah,
shout out to Sir Basai.
These are guys that were never
Tarzan.
You know, Gold Teeth Posse. These are reggae dances that Derek used to listen to, but at the moment he's the only one that seems to be remembered out of that timeline. And I'm thinking myself, but mate, there's loads of DJs that inspired Derek that ain't even getting mentioned.
So I'm going to pose a question to you guys, because I'm not going to have enough time to get you to answer it. I'm probably going to leave it I'm going to leave it hanging, so when you guys come back you can answer it. But often I've heard that music and culture that we are about or synonymous with, we don't seem to be at the forefront of that particular culture. I'm just going to leave it there, but I just want you to hold that thought. A music that we're at the forefront, we don't seem to be representative as much as we should be. But I want to thank you both for coming. I know it feels like I got hanging. It feels like a Dallas episode. JR gets shot now. You're waiting for the. But we'll
to be continued.
To be continued perfectly. But thank you both for being on the show, man. It's an honor to have both of you in the studio with me as well. There's so much more I want to talk about. When I said to Kelz it's a 4 hour, he looked at me and he was frightened. I said it's 2 hours. He still looked at me at frightened, and I said 2 hours has already passed quick, and he said yeah. So we have to definitely do this again, because there's stories that we need to share.
Definitely.
And I guess let me just leave a last word with you, whatever you want to say. I'm not even going to prompt you anything. Anything you want to just say before you leave, General? Over to you.
I think it's a pleasure having this opportunity once again, I think what you're doing at the moment is it's great, like with the Bristory on the Facebook page and all that. That is just sums it all up really, things coming out the woodwork on that. And this platform as well, I like Kelz. What they're thinking 2 hours.
2 hours, I know, it's frightening, isn't it?
What have I got to say?
Kelz, last word with you.
Peace and love to everybody. Maintain your passion and just stay positive and keep on listening to music, man, because music is the bridge between heaven and earth. That's
beautifully put. A crew that we didn't mention, but we're going to end with their song, Fresh 4. Shout out to Fresh 4.
Yeah, man. Peace and love. Yeah, big up to Flynn. Yeah.
Yeah.